Hi there, here we are again. And this time, I'd like to share some ideas about the optimal future self and alternate possibilities, alternate selves, alternate realities, keeping in mind that these are metaphors with which we can access perhaps possibilities that go well beyond our current three-dimensional science and thinking. Fortunately, quantum physics is offering a lot of very compelling and interesting ideas about how reality works when we step beyond our three-dimensional world. So before we go there, though, I want to just invite you to, again, follow your next out breath all the way down to the bottom of the breath and just take a moment to settle into that place inside that is your natural internal landing place. It's the place where you can touch into a steadiness that is never disturbed, and also a deep quiet that is never disturbed. These are aspects of your wholeness that are always present, no matter how much other things might be going on, and you might have 1,000 things on your mind, stresses. This is always just what it is, steady and quiet. You might think of this internal home base as a place of refuge when you've had a wild and woolly day, just a place to be where you can settle in and relax. So I think I mentioned on one of the earlier videos, for over 40 years now, I've been doing work with what I called, because I didn't have an idea about much beyond this, because quantum ideas were beginning to be available, but not as accessible as they are today. But when I started with this, I started working with the optimal future self. Always the optimal. I've mentioned your optimal life arriving and arising in another video. And to me, because of the quantum experimentation and concepts about how intention and possibility interact with each other, what's called in some of those experiments the observer effect, that our presence and what we think actually has an effect on what we perceive and what unfolds, actually what ends up unfolding. And so for this particular video, I want to share some ideas about my work with the future self, offering possibly some ways in which you can have a sense of how maybe to access a larger realm of possibility. You know, in quantum realities, they talk about how past, present, and future are all happening right now. There's not really a linear divide. There's just this ever-present, really big now. So my taste of that was that 40 years ago, when I had short hair that was highlighted, was brown, but it had blonde highlights. I was moving toward blonde. I had a future self journey where a future self appeared to me with long gray hair. And I said to her, nah, not going to happen. I had long hair when I was in my 20s, and now I just have my hair short. So along comes the pandemic. I'm stuck at home. I can't go to the hair place to get my roots done or to get my hair cut. And I discovered over the course of the time I couldn't go have my hair cut that my natural color, which I had not seen in probably my entire adult life, turned out to be fairly livable. And one day I looked in the mirror and there I was with long gray hair. And I thought, how did that future self know 40 years ago that there would be a time I would accept long gray hair? So it's not a huge example, but it's one that touched into my experience, that's for sure. And I had my first full-blown future self experience in 1981 or 82. I can't remember. It was in the woods in the Berkshires, when an image of myself dropped down with me in a blue business suit in front of a flip chart, talking to a room full of managers, in those days, men. And several things about that image were unlikely. First of all, I was living in the country and co-leading a little meditation center that didn't get very far. And I had an overwhelmingly awful speaking phobia. So nothing about that image made any real sense at a logical level, but I knew enough from past experience to blend with that body, to let my body, excuse me, learn what that body knew. And when I blended with that body in my imagination, I felt a deep, deep, abiding solidity and like a core that was very, very steady. That wasn't me in those days. So I realized it was a new state my body needed to learn. So I blended, I soaked in the sensations, and I returned to them often. Over the course of 2 years, I found myself in New York City participating in a management simulation where I was standing in front of a room of managers, writing on a flip chart, debriefing an exercise. And I thought, that was a future self. What an interesting idea. And I was in a year-long hypnosis training at that point. And when they talked about future progression, I thought, oh, people are playing with touching into the future. And that got me started on working with the optimal future self. So there are a couple of things about this that I wanted to share with you. First of all, I don't think I would be where I am right now had I not been tapping into optimal future selves along the way since that time, taking me next steps in teaching me body states and states of mind that were the next development for me, not where I was at the moment I discovered them. It's all about embodied experience. And I think even more than that, it's about information. It's about what information do we offer our bodies? And by blending with our optimal future self or optimal expressions of alternate selves who have developed or lived with qualities we're looking for and need, it's through the body-mind absorbing the new information that I think creates change in the present. Now, is this scientifically accurate? I don't know, but it's how I experience it. That one of the questions I ask people when I'm working with them in this way is, when you blend with that other version of you, how do they inhabit their body-mind being in ways that are different from how you inhabit yours? That's the new learning. So to bring to mind what those differences are, to take time to have the body-mind take in the differences. So those are likely to be different physical sensations. They might be different perspectives, different thoughts, different understandings of something. But most of the time, it's a deep, embodied, felt sense taking in. Like, it's like being a sponge, absorbing the quality and tone of that other self in the way I absorbed the quality and tone of the core that my first future self showed to me. So one way in working with this kind of a process is to create an intention. An intention might be, could I, or I would like to, connect with an aspect of being, one of my aspects of being in this multiverse that we live in, that has, let's say, achieved what I haven't achieved, or I didn't know in those days to ask for a future self who was comfortable with public speaking, at first anyway, but that would be one you could do, or to connect with an aspect of my being that has healed this particular limitation or difficulty or place where I'm stuck. Whatever intention. Or I'd like to connect with the aspect of being that is more open to receive what is optimal for me. You can make up whatever the intention is you need. And then you could go inside and imagine you're on a journey. Might be on a path. It might be, if you do visual work, it might be walking into a special place and finding this alternate self or future self waiting for you. Always underscore the optimal version. Why not? To have the best for you that is available. And then the goal is to notice your first impressions, blend by stepping inside that being, or if you don't like to blend, because I know people who don't like to think about blending, resonate, receive the qualities, resonate with what's in that other aspect of you or of your alternate lives, in whatever way feels comfortable for you in a multiverse kind of quality. And then just soak in what you discover. Then, and this is really an important part of all the work I do, be willing not to know how it's going to manifest or work out in your life. And remember, when we seek new information that we take into our body-mind, we are also engaging change. And even good change can be challenging, bring in different kinds of experiences. So to remember, you are flirting with change. And that's why it's good to create an intention before you go on a journey like this, so that you can be clear. You've got the rudder set for where you want to tap into new information that offers you new options about ways of being that may feel out of reach right at this moment. And so that's about all I wanted to share about this. I am sure I'm going to come back to this kind of subject because it's extraordinarily creative, and it's kind of where my interest is these days. But for right now, just come on back into that home base you carry inside and let yourself begin to wonder about what intentions would offer you the most support at this time. And in the meantime, I want to go back to something I said on one of the early videos. Please be willing to receive your optimal life, allowing it in this moment, in every moment, to arrive and then arise into your living experience without having to know ahead of time what that is, what it brings, and then to be open to notice what begins to emerge in your awareness, or where you feel yourself drawn that may not have been there before. Maybe even with new understandings about things you've pondered many times in many ways. So for now, that's about it. I just want to wish you well on your journey and see you next time. Take care.